How does something seemingly insignificant become the linchpin of an entire global conflict? How does a single, humble machine, driven by the most overlooked of heroes, shift the tide of history? That was the question born in the brutal summer of 1944. A question of logistics, of willpower, and of a machine that in different hands might have been dismissed as worthless. This is the sound of it, the groan of steel, the roar of an engine pushed past its breaking point. This is the sound of the Red Ball Express. It's the story of how a mass-produced, standardized military truck, the GMC Deuce and a Half, became a legend. And it's the story of the mechanics, the unsung heroes whose wrenches and grit fueled an entire war. In 1944, after the D-Day breakout, the Allied armies were advancing across France at an astonishing pace. So fast, in fact, they outran their own supply lines. Generals, tanks, infantry, they were all about to starve for fuel, ammunition, and food. The war machine was grinding to a halt. The solution wasn't a new wonder weapon or a brilliant strategic maneuver. It was this truck. It was simple, tough, and incredibly reliable. But reliability isn't enough. You need the hands, the minds, to keep it reliable. That's where the mechanic came in. Imagine miles of winding, often bombed-out French roads, day after day, night after night. The Deuce and a Half, fully loaded, became the lifeline. The real secret wasn't just the truck itself, but the human element, the drivers, and, critically, the mechanics of the Red Ball Express. Approximately 75% of these brave men were African American soldiers, fighting a war abroad while battling prejudice at home. They drove for 20 hours, 30 hours, sometimes even 36 hours straight. They slept behind the wheel, if at all. When a truck broke down, and they always did eventually, there was no roadside assistance. There was just the next mechanic. These were men who could identify an engine knock by ear, fix a busted fuel line with scavenged parts and sheer ingenuity, often in the dark, under enemy fire or the constant threat of it. They didn't have sophisticated diagnostics. They had intuition, a well-worn toolbox, and the understanding that if they stopped, the entire front line stopped with them. They kept the war moving with wrenches and willpower. They were the original systems integrators, the problem solvers, the ones who translated battlefield chaos into functional order. Their grit transformed a standard military vehicle into a legendary symbol of logistical triumph. They laid the groundwork for how we think about wartime mechanics. That was then, a world of pistons, carburetors, and grit. But what does that spirit look like now? What happens when the battlefield is no longer just mud and steel, but silicon and code? What does the mechanic of World War III do? This is Sergeant Eva Rostova. She's never changed a tire in her life. Her toolkit doesn't have wrenchers. It has quantum processors, neuro-interface gloves, and diagnostic drones. She's a systems integration specialist, a cyberkinetic engineer. She's not just fixing machines, she's talking to their digital souls. And this is her truck, an autonomous logistic hauler, designation UGV7, call sign Badger. It doesn't run on gasoline. It runs on a closed-loop hydrogen core and 1,000 lines of code per second. Its engine is a distributed AI network, constantly learning, constantly adapting. Today, Badger is part of an autonomous convoy, deep in a contested gray zone, far beyond the reach of conventional supply lines. It's carrying the most critical cargo imaginable: racks of synthetic blood, advanced medical nanites, and the raw material for a forward-based 3D printer that can fabricate spare parts for everything from laser rifles to tank armor. This convoy is the new Red Ball Express, but it's about to hit a very new kind of roadblock. The attack, when it comes, isn't heralded by the roar of jets or the crack of rifles. It's silent, invisible, a targeted blast of focused electromagnetic energy, a ghost in the machine. In an instant, a dozen multi-ton vehicles are paralyzed. Their GPS is fried. Their networked brains are scrambled. Their myriad of sensors are blind. They are no longer a high-tech logistic convoy. They are a $2 billion traffic jam, dead in the water, and a perfect target for any enemy scouting drone. Ava's heart pounds. Her first instinct, honed by years of training, is to look for physical damage. She launches a swarm of micro-drones from her command hub, thousands of miles away. These tiny humming eyes dart towards the immobilized convoy. The machines aren't broken in the traditional sense. They're lost. The electronic warfare attack hasn't just damaged them, it has wiped their minds, severed their connection to the command network, leaving them isolated and vulnerable. Eva can't pop the hood. She can't send a recovery team without exposing them to extreme danger. Her battlefield is abstract. It's a digital landscape of code and data packets. She has to dive into the core of the UGV's operating system. She works with a surgeon's precision, routing power through emergency conduits, attempting to purge corrupted data packets from the primary and secondary network cores. Hours tick by like minutes. Sweat beads on her brow. One by one, after agonizing effort, she manages to bring 11 of the 12 vehicles back online by establishing a secure, high-altitude satellite link, a digital lifeline bypassing the ground-level jamming. The convoy can move again. But one vehicle remains dark. Badger. Its core navigation processor is melted silicon. Its primary AI network is utterly fragmented, a digital fatality. The most vital cargo, the 3D printer material, is locked inside it. The mission parameters are clear. No vehicle left behind. Losing Badger means failing the mission. The frontline troops would be without critical supplies, potentially for weeks. And then she remembers something her first instructor, an old master sergeant who actually started his career wrenching on combustion engines, used to tell her. He called it the Red Ball Protocol, a last-ditch, brute-force solution for when the smart tech gets dumb. Every machine, he'd said, his voice gruff but full of wisdom, no matter how smart, how complex, has a stupid switch. Your job, Sergeant, is to find it. When the fancy stuff fails, go back to basics. She bypasses the fried AI entirely. She ignores the dead navigation system, the blind sensors, the compromised communication arrays. She's not trying to fix the intelligence. She's trying to restart the heartbeat. She finds her way to the most primitive part of the machine's brain, the drivetrain actuators, the individual wheel motors, the absolute basics. She writes a single, stupid, elegant line of code. No GPS coordinates, no threat analysis, no complex algorithms. She has, in essence, lobotomized her billion-dollar machine. She stripped away its genius and reduced it to its most basic, instinctual function. She turned her hyper-intelligent autonomous truck into a simple follower, daisy-chaining it to the rest of the convoy. It is now just following the taillights of the truck in front of it, just like the drivers of the original Red Ball Express, navigating by the light ahead in the darkness. Hours later, the convoy, with the lobotomized Badger dutifully in tow, rolls into a battered forward operating base. Exhausted but relieved, soldiers rush out, their faces illuminated by the vehicle's headlamps, and immediately begin unloading the life-saving cargo. The synthetic blood, the medical nanots, the crucial 3D printer material, all delivered. The mission is a success. Not because of the flawless technology, but because of its spectacular failure, and because of the mechanic who knew how to kick it back into gear by going back to square one. The tools have changed dramatically. The wrench is now a line of code. The internal combustion engine is a distributed AI network. The grease and oil have been replaced by data streams and light pulses. But the core job, the fundamental skill, remains exactly the same. To understand the machine, not just when it works perfectly, but more importantly, when it spectacularly breaks down. To improvise, to adapt, to think creatively under pressure, and to find the simple, elegant solution hidden inside the most complex problem. The mechanic of a new world war won't always be standing over a smoking engine covered in oil. They might be fighting ghosts in the code from half a world away, navigating digital landscapes and battling cyber warfare. But their spirit, that gritty, ingenious, unstoppable will to just keep things moving, to make the impossible possible, is precisely the same spirit that drove the Red Ball Express down a muddy road in France all those years ago. It is a human weapon no technology can ever truly replace.